Hello everyone, John Maher here. This is your weekly grazing management update on the dairy edge. Well, grass supply is, I suppose, generally quite good on many farms. Certain parts of the country have got excessive rain, while other parts of the country got none and probably need some. But anyway, that's the story of the pattern for the week that was in it. Grass grew well at over 60 kilograms of dry matter per hectare per day, and grass supply is good to say the least, I suppose, but in many cases it's probably too good. And I suppose this will need to be tackled really as we head into the stemming phase of the grazing season. Grass growth is predicted to be similar to last week for the week ahead. So that's the story of a quick summary of where we are at, and I suppose we need to move on then to see how things are going to be for the week ahead. So dry matters are running between 16 to 18%. So the average farm cover for the record was for a week gone by on pasture base was 750 kilograms of dry matter per hectare, or above that, and or about I suppose 220 kilograms per livestock unit. The diet of the cow was about 15 kilograms of grass and about 3.5 kilos of meal. But the average pre-grazing yield was over 1,600 kilos per hectare. Now, while grazing 1,600 kilograms in early May is manageable, because it's probably still the end of the second rotation or the start of the third, grass will now head into the stemming phase from now on. And I suppose simply put, this is just too high, and basically cows won't clean out. And if they are asked to clean out, things won't go well in terms of performance. The first thing will decline will be the intake. So I say this because look at the figures for pasture base for the week. Right, 2/3 of the farms had an average farm cover close to 800 kilograms of dry matter per hectare, and the average pre-grazing yield of this group, which is large, 2/3 of the farms, is 1,760 kilograms per hectare. So, if we want to keep the cows performing well, doing well, clean out the swards, that's just way too high, especially as we enter into the stemming phase now. For the record, I suppose 25% of the farms on pasture base had an average farm cover about 680 kilos per hectare, or about 181 kilograms per livestock unit. The average stock rate this group is about 3.75 cows per hectare. 15% of farms had an average farm cover of about 650 or 157 per livestock unit. These are the ones that are tightest, I suppose. And one reason for that, they're stocked at over 4 cows per hectare, close to 4.2 to be precise. So, while a small bit are on the tighter side, and with growth rates at the moment like most herds had the demand around the 55 to 60 mark, with a growth rate over 60, this group would probably be okay. But the greater concern for us is the pre-grazing yield being so high for the 2/3 of farms, which is going to be a challenge. And the stem is going to arrive, and for many it'll arrive sooner than we think, because the way the spring came, often graze out didn't go as well as we would like. Cows didn't get to clean out the swards. That can happen as well in the second rotation, which means then that the stemming phase will even come at you far faster. And it'll be difficult to graze out. And the first thing that goes wrong is dry matter intake will reduce. Then the milk solids yield will fall because volume will fall, and the milk protein percentage will not increase or even fall if things are particularly poor at this stage. As you go further on, the likelihood of milk protein percentage falling will get greater and greater. If this trend was to continue in simple numbers, without and being reasonably conservative about it, the average herd in the country, dairy herd, will lose about €5,000 over the next 2-3 months, I suppose. That's in terms of revenue. I haven't built in any costs into that. The additional problem is that some farmers then will not force the cows to clean out the sward, even though the pre-grazing yield is wrong. And this will affect the quality of the sward even more so over the next 4 to 5 rotations. So what I'm fundamentally asking everybody is to try and graze the right grass, and to target 1,400 kilograms of dry matter per hectare. The average growth rate was 60. The average growth rate looks to be about 60 from the predictions that we have. 60 a day by a 21-day rotation, somewhere around the 1300 mark. You see where I'm going here. So this will keep the swards correct for the grazing animal. It's very, very high in leaf content because that's maximized, which is what the cow likes. They will graze it down for you. They will clean out the sward. It keeps the plant between the 2 to 3 leaf stage. And it just maximizes animal performance. The regrowth is also faster because you're working off leaf rather than stem. So the challenge is now is to get into the right pre-grazing yield. But with 2/3 of the farms with excess grass, action has to be really taken here. So to try and enter the right pre-grazing yields, like the average amount of meal going in last week was 3.5 kilos, and yet 2/3 of the farm have excess grass. So we have to ask questions there about still our fees going into the diet. That the surplus grass on the farm we're in the silage season now. Maybe that could be converted into that surplus grass converted into silage. For some it'll be short term, and for others might be longer term. But the advantage of short term is it brings back the sward into the rotation that bit quicker because you're cutting it at a lower yield, and the recovery will be faster. Fundamentally, though, to get a handle on grass growth and grass supply, it changes fast this time of year, and you're talking about walking the farm 3 times in 2 weeks, right? Our best people in terms of grazing management tend to walk the farm twice a week, so they do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then complete that cycle and walk again Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I have to suggest that to try and keep on top of things. In terms of fertilizer, then, hopefully most paddocks have received either slurry on the or a compound fertilizer during the spring to get the P's and K's out, right? I suppose then where that's done, to follow the rotation with a nitrogen plus sulfur type product. So broadly, somewhere a unit a day, maybe depending on your fertilizer allowance, around that mark. So 20-day rotation, in and around the 18 to 20 units. I suppose there are some paddocks that have been cut for silage as surplus grass has come out. This is particularly more common on the heavier farms as they weren't able to complete the first round. And I suppose where you get out about 4 bales to the acre is the equivalent of about 1,000 gallons of slurry in terms of P and K requirements. And it's important that the books are balanced on that, because it will affect the performance of sward for the rest of the season unless the P's and K's go back out. And there is an opportunity to spread lime. It's not even on many people's radar, but we are not in a good place when it comes to lime for many parts of the country. So silage season is also approaching, I suppose, at this stage. It's time to start doing some sums on what is required for next winter. The pasture base website has a fodder budget tool would help with this process, so I'll remind people of that. So on to our feature farmer then, David Lowry from Churchminister in County Donegal, who is the Pasture Progress Award winner for that county. So David's looking at about 210 cows. He starts his second rotation on the 30th of April. 2 fields got baled last week from the first rotation. Lucky enough, David has got the majority of the farm, has received some slurry in the spring, which is great to have the P and K out. He's now following with about 3/4 bag per acre of a bag of 27.44 plus sulfur. So that's a quick update there. I suppose in terms of grass figures, David's going well. He grew 71. He's eaten 61. His average farm cover was 651 for the week gone by. He walked the farm last Sunday. The corporate livestock unit, about the target mark of 180 per livestock unit. In terms of the performance of cows, then the cows are doing 4.44% fat, 3.48% protein, and about 2.12 kilograms of mixed solids. On about 16, 17 kilograms of grass and about 3 kilos of meal. So, and David started the breeding season this week. I suppose the other thing to fair, while it's been, David's got a bit further north, and the land is a bit later up there. He is going receding in very soon in May here. So, and I suppose just to remind you all the importance of reseeding. I know it's been a very late spring. People are behind in terms of spraying off, but I suppose it's never too late to reseed. just to remind people of that. Despite being a difficult year financially, the receding piece, it keeps the farm moving forward in terms of grass production, particularly in the shoulders of the year. Response to nitrogen much higher. I admit it costs close to €600 an acre now with the increased costs, but you would have your money back within 2 years. Just doing basics of pasture quality and pasture growth. If I was to include all the other bits and pieces, I'd say it'd be closer to a year and a half. You'd have your money back. So there is an outlay, but the return is high and the return is quick. So that's the story. If you'd like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also in the description of this podcast. We'd like to thank all those who support the Grass10 campaign: AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, FBT, and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I will talk to you all next week when I hope the grass is still growing as well.